shattered dreams. End of times ain't what it seems.
Hello friends, it's Sam Cheney reporting for Weaponized News. Today's June 1st, 2026. We got some sixes. Looks like tomorrow we'll add them all up and get 666. Exciting. But for today, happy Everything's Fake and Gay month. Happy Pride month. Get your Weaponized News holograph rainbow sticker at weaponizednews.com/shop. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. What do we got for today in the news? Quite a bit to get to. Iran war, day number 94. And there was a little bit of exchanges over the weekend between America and Iran as Aardvark land continues the genocide there in Gaza and now in Lebanon. We have all of that reporting for you. The ins and outs, what Trump says, what Aardvark land leadership says today as all of this is developing, and what Iran has to say about all of this. It looks like it's just about ready to kick off into real hot and real heavy, real bad. It's horrific. Let's pray for peace here. Or maybe we'll just start following John Hagee's example. We'll get to that later in the show. Denouncing anyone as a witch or satanic if you don't support genocide. So we'll take a look at that. A lot going on here. Military strikes are being exchanged there in the Persian Gulf. All of these details for you. And what else do we have today? That's kind of front and center. Oh, Aardvark land officially taking over U.S. military. We'll take a look at that. The 2027 NDAA. I did report on it briefly on Friday, but people have been messaging me saying, did you see this? I was like, yeah, we reported on it, but we'll do a little bit more today on it and lobby that's how it should be, right? Of course. A little bit of data center news. Of course, data centers are good and we're all bad. And so that's the way it's going to be. We got a little bit, some court rulings, a little bit. We'll take a look at this this attack on the ICE center there in New Jersey with arrests over the weekend. Take a look at that. Google is going to release these mosquitoes all over the place for our own good. We'll take a look at that report. A couple of reports about that. We had a bunch of economic news. We have Epstein news. We have other geopolitical news. What is up with Russia, Ukraine? Is it winding down? Is it only cranking up? Take a look at some reporting out of that war, which needs to end. And then the secret war, which is not even secret, but very underreported war we got going on in Mexico, Central and South America, because we have to build the Greater North America project here now. We're told by the Department of War. And I don't see anybody reporting on it or using even the correct terminology, but we do here at Weaponized News. The Greater North America. That's what Pete Hegseth says. The Pentagon in the Situation War Room has a big map of it on the wall there. And more Aardvark evil, a whole lot of it to report to you here now. And again, they're being set up as a scapegoat, as is in their nature. So we'll take a look at all that and much more on this Monday edition of Weaponized News. Thank you for joining us. I see some people coming online now into the chat there. Shout out to Mac, Ruckus, said my video quality. Well, I tried to mess with my lighting a little bit. I don't know. And shout out to Snow there. He's starting a campaign against lawns. And there is something to that. There is something to the lawn psyop going on. All right, let's get to this day in history. Quite a few events on this day in history, and then we'll get to all this insane news for you today on day 94 of the Iran war. But on this day of June 1st, we go back to the year 1215. Genghis Khan sacks Peking. Peking, then a city of over 1 million people under the control of Jurchen ruler, Emperor Zhang Zong of Jin, falls to the Mongols under Genghis Khan and is looted for a month on this day, 1215. On this day in 1495, first written record of Scotch whiskey appears in the Exquisitor Rolls of Scotland. Friar John Kerr is listed as the distiller. And I guess we should give that warning now, per Karen. Warning now, this show may cause you to start drinking. First written record of Scotch whiskey on this day, 1495. On this day, 1533, we do love our 33s. Anne Boleyn is crowned Queen of England on this day, 1533. 1543, Finnish physician Andreas Vesalius publishes De Humana Corpus Fabrica. Of course, that's Latin, and my Latin is horrible. On the fabric of the human body in 7 books, a major step forward in understanding human anatomy. And so this is an image out of it. Right there. And quite the illustration of the skeleton there. Illustration out of the book there. Or out of his series of books, for that matter. On this day in 1562, we saw the Holy Roman Emperor Ferdinand I and Ottoman Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent sign a treaty. And so that was good of them on this day. 1562, 1649, on this day, Russian Tsar Alexis throws English merchants out of Moscow. So it wasn't the aardvarks this time. It was those dirty Englishmen. On this day in 1660, Mary Dyer's hanged for defying a law banning Quakers from the Massachusetts Bay Colony. On this day, 1774, Boston Port Act. Following the passage of the act, the British government orders the port of Boston closed to punish the colonists for the Boston Tea Party. 1774 on this day. 1792 on this day, Kentucky admitted as the 15th U.S. state, and thankfully we got Galrain will probably lose to, that would be the funniest thing ever if Galrain lost to a Democrat there in the general election. Anyhow, thankfully Galrain is holding things together for America First there in Kentucky, beating that dirty Massey for calling out Epstein. I know. 1796 was the Tennessee was admitted as the 16th state here in the Union. 1845, on this day, a homing pigeon completes an 11,000 kilometer trip from Nambia to London in 55 days. And we may very soon go back to homing pigeons for communication, as everything will be and is currently right now monitored, tracked, traced, and surveilled by AI and these systems come into better form, we may have to revert back to homing pigeons for secure communications. We may actually be needing to do that right about now. On this day in 1855, U.S. adventurer William Walker conquers Nicaragua, and out of the goodness of his heart, he reestablishes slavery there in Nicaragua. 1855. 1862, on this day, African Slave Trade Treaty Act, bilateral treaty between the U.S. and U.K. abolishing the slave trade in all U.S. possessions. On this day in 1869, Thomas Edison granted his first patent for the electronic vote recorder. Huh? So we want to blame everybody, China, Russia, Venezuela, for electronic voting machines hacking democracy. I don't know. Let's maybe point the finger back to old Thomas Edison on this day, 1869, patenting the electronic vote recorder. On this day in 1880, we saw the first pay telephone service in the United States is installed in New Haven, Connecticut, and you better believe the wires were tapped. On this day in 1941, Germany bans all Catholic publications, and Germany occupies Crete after Allied evacuation. On this day, 1941, British troops occupy Baghdad, Iraq. And then on to 1980. On this day, we saw the first transmission of cable news network, or CNN, and thankfully they went on to give us a bunch of fake news in front of green screens to propagandize the America into a bunch of war. And so we do appreciate the efforts out of CNN there. On this day in 1988, the Morton Downey Jr. show debuts in television syndication. And that was quite a show there. Morton Downey Jr. show. He smoked a cigarette all show, and friggin' every other show's a big riot, right? And insult everybody. Quite a show there. Quite a show there in the late 80s. And on this day in 2017, U.S. quits Paris Climate Agreement. U.S. President Donald Trump announces the U.S. is withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement on this day, 2017. And then on this day in our civil liberties history, we go back to the year 1931, Neer versus Minnesota, landmark freedom of the press decision. The Supreme Court on this day declared unconstitutional a Minnesota public nuisance law, and for the first time ruled that the First Amendment protected freedom of the press from prior restraints. J. Neer published a Minneapolis newspaper, the Saturday Press, which was regarded as a scandal sheet and indulged in exposés of alleged political scandals and attacks on local political figures. Neer was anti-Catholic, anti-septic, and anti-Black. He alleged, for example, that aardvark crime bosses particularly ran Minneapolis politics. Authorities sought an injunction against his paper under the Minnesota law that allowed permanent injunctions against publications that were deemed a public nuisance. Neer challenged the injunction, and the Supreme Court in Neer versus Minnesota declared the law an unconstitutional prior restraint on freedom of the press. The case established the principle of no prior restraints, which is the foundation of constitutional law on freedom of the press. Nowadays, Nowadays, old J. Neer would be sanctioned at the very least and probably droned, is where we're at with all these wild accusations against aardvarks who we know can do no wrong. On this day in 1942 in our civil liberties history, court limits sterilization of offenders. Skinner versus Oklahoma. The Supreme Court on this day declared unconstitutional an Oklahoma law that permitted the sterilization of criminal offenders after they had 2 or more convictions of crimes of moral turpitude. The case of Skinner versus Oklahoma involved the Oklahoma Habitual Criminal Offender Sterilization Act. White-collar crimes such as embezzlement were not covered by the law. However, the purpose of the law was essentially eugenic, to prevent people with alleged criminogenic genes from reproducing. With William O. Douglas writing the majority opinion, the Supreme Court declared the law an unconstitutional violation of the Equal Protection Clause. Douglas asked rhetorically whether the person who uses trickery to commit a burglary has better genetic characteristics than an embezzler lacks. Yeah, eugenics straight up there. And here's our segue to the news. Here's a flashback of Trump saying that Bush should have been impeached for his Middle East wars.
Nancy Pelosi, the speaker.
Well, you know, when she first got in and was named speaker, I met her, and I'm very impressed by her. I think she's a very impressive person. I like her a lot. But I was surprised that she didn't do more in terms of Bush and going after Bush. It just seemed like she was going to really look to impeach Bush and get him out of office, which personally I think would have been a wonderful thing.
Impeaching him?
Absolutely, for the war. For the war.
Because of the conduct of the war.
Well, he lied. He got us into the war with lies. And, I mean, look at the trouble.
Oh, it's almost like they're all working together here. Trump kind of sussed that out, and then now it's gone on to carry on these same lies about they're going to nuke us in 2 weeks. So we've already thoroughly debunked that. Our own intelligence community has debunked that, along with the State Department debunking it. Here's a big aardvark rally over there in New York over the weekend. None of the war criminals were arrested. Here's a Palestinian Schumer per Trump. You can clearly see that he's not a Palestinian.
For millennia, let them hear that loud and clear. The Jewish people have yearned for a state of Israel, whilst experiencing the constant anxiety of knowing the place where they lived could violently expel them at any moment, has happened again and again. We must not go back to that era.
Stop doing your satanic behavior, aardvarks. They just can't seem to do it. That's the problem. Trump told CNBC Iran talks started to get very boring. Trump's now bored with this. In March, Trump said, "I never get bored when speaking about the war." It's very boring. And it would be nice if we had somebody with some technical knowledge of nuclear programs in there negotiating so they even know what they're talking about. Minor detail, right? Minor detail. Yeah, Trump tells CNBC, "I don't care if Iran negotiations are over." He just simply doesn't care anymore. A bunch about this report. He had a bunch of strange claims here. I don't care if they're over in regards to the negotiations. Honestly, I really don't care. I couldn't care less. CNBC quoting Trump there. And then on with this nonsense. And remember, they, anonymous sources in the White House, said disregard Trump's tweets because it's for public PR, essentially, for domestic propaganda against you and I. Here's what Trump put out. He said, calls with Aardvarkland and Hezbollah. I had a very productive call with Prime Minister, Shadow President of America, Bibi, and there will be no troops going to Beirut, and any troops that are on their way have already been turned back. Likewise, through highly placed representatives, I had a very good call with Hezbollah, and they agreed that all shooting will stop. The Aardvarkland will not attack them, and they will not attack the Aardvarkland. And total bullshit. The firing and attacks continue all through Trump's domestic propaganda campaign. I had a very productive call. Oh, it's the same post here. Yeah, why is Trump talking to the terrorist Hezbollah? I thought we don't negotiate with terrorists. Turns out. Trump's latest claim, a ceasefire between Hezbollah and Aardvarkland. This was already announced on April 16th in an attempt to claim there will be no strikes on Beirut. Trump says troops are no longer on their way to Beirut. There were never any troops on their way to Beirut. What the hell? I think Trump deserves a peace prize for this. And then what's the shadow government of America now becoming a real government here very soon, hopefully. Bibi says, I spoke this evening with President Trump and told him that if Hezbollah does not stop attacking our cities and our citizens, Aardvarkland will strike terrorist targets in Beirut. Our position on this remains unchanged. At the same time, the IDF will continue to operate as planned in southern Lebanon. So I'm glad Trump is calling the shots there. All these comments from the Aardvark establishment say Trump is not calling the shots on Jack Diddley Squat. Aardvark Defense Minister Katz says Trump has adopted the equation we established, according to which firing on our communities means bombing in Beirut. This is the meaning of this statement. So I'm glad we're getting our president here of America's statement about not attacking reinterpreted back to us by Aardvarkland Defense Minister Aardvark Katz. I mean, what a public service they're doing for us. And then Bibi even put out a video. I don't know how many fingers he has, and we don't have English translation, but here's the video even saying basically, F you, we do what we want. We're Aardvark and proud.
הנחיתי את צה"ל לתקוף מטרות טרור בביירות. לא יהיה מצב שחיזבאללה תוקף את ערינו ואת אזרחינו.
Yeah, there was something in the throat. Maybe there's a lozenge we can bless and give to him. Aardvarkland War Minister, they call it War Minister here out of the cradle. Defense Minister, War Minister, it's the same, right? Aardvarkland War Minister Katz on Aardvark Channel 14 says the activity in southern Lebanon continues as usual. At this stage, we are definitely not in a ceasefire. What? They beat us over the head with you were in a ceasefire. Turns out not so much. We told you we were never in a ceasefire from the second they said we were here at Weaponized News. And then, of course, we had to have Ben Gvir chime in as well. Aardvarkland National Security Minister Ben Gvir had this to say. He said, Mr. Prime Minister, You said that a strong prime minister tells the president of the United States yes when possible and no when necessary. This is the time to tell our friend, President Trump, no, emphatically no. Now is the time to do what is required and necessary to strike Hezbollah, to unleash the hands of our fighters, and to restore security to the north. But they're the aggressors. They're the ones on Lebanese land. They're the ones doing massacres to civilians, women and children, men civilians for that matter. Lebanese Joe Blows blowing up. We're well past 3,000 dead Lebanese since March 2nd. Into the mindset a little bit here. The Aardvark mindset over there in Aardvark land. Aardvark MK opposition party. Yai Aardvark Bintu party. I know I butchered that pronunciation. Anyway, the alleged opposition to Bibi's party. And former war minister Lieberman said, this character right here, this character, just so you know, Lieberman, he said, it is unacceptable that northern Aardvark land has been under heavy bombardment for days. Soldiers are being wounded and killed, and Aardvark land's prime minister is waiting for Trump's approval to bomb Dahaya. We are not a banana republic. Dahaya must be flattened now. And we must not stop until the last building there has been brought down. So I'm glad they're liberal on the other side of Bibi there and don't, wait a minute, it's all this, yeah, they're all the same. Sorry to report to you here now. Trump said talks are continuing at a rapid pace with the Islamic Republic of Iran. Again, propaganda for domestic consumption here now. Trying to do something to squeeze a little bit more pump and dump out of the markets. And what's Iran's response to all this? Well, Iran's central military commander, Al-Anbaya, this dude, he's always all pissed off, right? We played this guy before. He's always all pissed off on his propaganda videos. He said Netanyahu, continuing his acts of aggression in the region, has threatened to bomb Dahaya and Beirut and has issued an evacuation warning to the residents. Given the regime's repeated violations of the ceasefire, if this threat is carried out, we warn residents of northern areas and military settlements in the occupied territories, northern Aardvark land. If they do not want to be harmed, they should leave the area. U.S. Central Command, thankfully, we're policing the Strait of Hormuz, helping to engineer a global famine and potentially global economic collapse. U.S. Central Command said last night at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S. forces successfully intercepted 2 Iranian ballistic missiles targeting American forces based in Kuwait. These missiles were immediately defeated and no American personnel were harmed. U.S. Central Command remains vigilant and will continue to protect our forces from Iranian aggression while supporting the ongoing ceasefire. And so again, back to the original sticking point. If the dirty Iranians should have never built their country around our military bases. It's self-defense, according to U.S. Central Command. Iran's IRGC says it struck sources of new U.S. attacks on communication tower in Sirk. The IRGC said earlier today that U.S. forces targeted a communications tower in Sirk in Iran's Hormozgan province. early Sunday, in response, the IRGC said its aerospace force struck the airbase from which the attack was launched, claiming that its designated targets were destroyed. The IRGC warned that any repeat of U.S. aggression would be met with a completely different response, adding that responsibility would lie with the aggressor and child-killing U.S. regime. According to the statement, the strike was carried out in retaliation for the attack on the communications tower. The statement came after U.S. Central Command said it had carried out what it had described as self-defense strikes. We just read you from U.S. Central Command. Again, don't build your country around our military bases, bro, or we will self-defense strike your butt. Iran launches retaliatory strikes on Kuwait after new U.S. attacks. And they put this one out. I'll just show you the here. Iran propaganda on their missiles, because Secretary of War Pete Hegseth signs our missiles. A bunch of U.S. warmongers sign the missiles until the last American soldier leaves the region. They're putting these stickers on the side of missiles. Yeah, well, we got something for you, Iran. Try to build your country around our bases. All right. So where are we at with all this? I think, let's see. Yeah. U.S. bombs Iranian military sites. The back and forth there now in Kuwait. UK MTO reports a cargo vessel was struck by an unknown projectile around 40 nautical miles southeast of Iraq, causing a large explosion on board. You can see that on the map here, right here. Yeah, so it's heating up. It's heating up there in the Persian Gulf quite a bit. Iran's foreign ministry holds U.S. directly responsible for aardvark land ceasefire violations in Lebanon. Iran's foreign ministry issued a formal statement earlier today holding the United States directly responsible for both its own ceasefire violations against Iran and for aardvark land's military escalation in Lebanon, which is described as flagrant violations of the April 8th ceasefire agreement. In the statement said, aardvark land's operations in Lebanon have killed and wounded thousands, displaced 2 million people, and destroyed civilian infrastructure, and that a violation of the ceasefire on any front constitutes a violation of the ceasefire on all fronts. Iran accused the U.S. of continued interference with the attacks on Iranian commercial shipping since the ceasefire, and said that despite Washington's stated efforts in the early days after April 8th to restrain aardvark land, American responsibility for the current escalation is clear. The Islamic Republic of Iran possesses both the capability and the determination to make use of all available means based on its inherent right of self-defense. You built your country around our bases, Iran, to protect its interests wherever it deems necessary. And that was a statement out of Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Yeah, so that's about where we're at here. BBC probe reveals Iranian strikes heavily damaged at least 20 U.S. military bases in West Asia. And so this is a good map to give us an idea about what the hell are you guys doing there in Iran. Our bases take precedent So you can see here, verified strikes on U.S. military facilities. They whacked us here, 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 in Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Bahrain, which you can barely find on a map because it's a U.S. military base, Qatar, UAE, and Oman. And so all of these, according to the BBC, have been whacked by Iran. Again, they built their country by all our bases, and they need to be dealt with because they were going to nuke us in 2 weeks. About 60 U.S. Air Force aerial refueling tankers, all the big dogs, the KC-135s, KC-446s, a bunch of them are parked at Ben Gurion Airport there, with another 16 to 18 Iliad Ramon. The U.S. has asked to keep them there through the end of 2027. I hope our planes there at Ben Gurion Airport don't get blown up on the ground because the iron piece of crap system fails or whatever, because that would certainly be a devastating loss there. It doesn't feel very secure at Ben Gurion Airport. All these U.S. military aircraft. Here's some video of it.
Hogy maradjanak körben, biztonságüvők lebecsatolva egészen addig még az zárótalajjelzés világít, és akkor a gép a végleges balkon helyre lehet. Kérjük, hogy majd óvatosan viseljük a csomagtárolókat, nőtt bármikért.
Yeah, I don't feel safe with all our planes parked right there. So Trump says Iran talks continuing at a rapid pace. Iran says negotiations suspended. There are no negotiations. Well, more on Iran war, day 94 in the geopolitical section. Let's move on now to, and again, a few people have messaged me this, so we'll cover it again today. In the House's version of the 2027 NDAA, we're going to be all tied up even further with aardvark land, as it says in our Constitution. So this section says it would dramatically deepen U.S. aardvark land military integration far beyond the $200+ billion in aid to aardvark land that it's received since 1948. Key elements include joint research and development, co-production of weapons, joint ventures, licensing agreements, network integration, and data fusion. U.S. military data potentially shared with aardvark land. Covers critical future tech, AI, quantum computing, autonomous systems, cyber directed energy, biotech, and more. They'll save us from the next bats, rats, whatever it is. They're going to save us. Would create the closest defense industrial partnership the U.S. has with any country, exceeding NATO level cooperation. Would boost aardvark land influence in the U.S. through new American jobs via co-production facilities and greater access to U.S. military technology and data. Well, they should just have aardvarks at the threat fusion centers, and you say something bad about them, they sanction drone you, right? I think we got one here in downtown Fresno that we've reported on in the past. And so that would be a perfect use of resources to go after dirty Americans critical of the never-ending wars. Section 224, this is via Rodzop. He sent me this one. Section 224 of the House version of the fiscal year 2027 National Defense Authorization Act, H.R. 8800, is titled the United States Aardvark Land Defense Technology Cooperation Initiative. The provision directs the Pentagon to designate a senior executive agent to synchronize bilateral defense research, development, and weapons co-production between the U.S. and Aardvark Land. Key aspects of Section 224, deep technological integration, expands bilateral coordination beyond traditional missile defense into artificial intelligence, quantum computing, autonomous systems, cyber defense, biotech, and directed energy weapons. Network and data sharing lays out the structural groundwork for full network integration and data fusion between the two militaries. Supply chain cooperation promotes joint ventures, licensing agreements, and co-production of weapons on U.S. soil. And so it'd be the same routine they told us with Ukraine. You're mad that there's a never-ending stream of weapons and funding going to Ukraine to kill Russians, where you're against American jobs because all that money's coming back here, as old Newland had told us. And so the same corrupt routine for the military-industrial complex here. They know how to racketeer because war's a racket, and these are the world's master racketeers. On to, this is a crazy story. Low-budget horror film made by two YouTubers is now beating Disney's Star Wars blockbuster movie that just came out over the last week or so. Obsession, the low-budget horror film, hits $148 million worldwide and grew again in its third weekend. That was this last weekend. Well, The Mandalorian Grogu, that's a Star Wars film, dropped 69%. It even topped Mandalorian at the daily box office during its opening week. So quite a return on investment there for these low-budget horror film producers out box officing Disney Star Wars, The Mandalorian and Grogu. Quite an achievement there in cinema, I would say. NVIDIA puts AI directly into PCs with new RTX Spark superchip. New chip unveiled earlier today is designed to run AI computations locally instead of relying on cloud servers. It promises to reinvent the PC for the AI era. And here's a little meme along with it. I'm sure all this is fine. Yeah, we've seen that movie. And Terminator does appear to be a documentary. Well, it turns out you got screwed again, MAGA. You should have seen it coming. Trump plans to scrap anti-weaponization fund. Axios cites administrative sources. Todd Blanche, acting director of the Department of Justice, said even Hunter Biden would be eligible to receive money from the anti-weaponization fund. And so they do keep the racket tight to their vest. But you're screwed again, MAGA. Trust the plan, bro.
Did you took, I assume, because what the settlement agreement says, you eliminated certain individuals from being qualified to receive benefits from this fund. What's the list of those individuals?
Well, the plaintiffs in the underlying lawsuit have agreed to accept an apology. So that's President Trump and his sons, I believe. And otherwise, there is no limitation. So whether you're Hunter Biden or whether you're another individual who believed they were a victim of weaponization, they can all apply for to this fund. And again, it doesn't mean the commissioners will agree.
Yeah, they're not doing any of that. And you had to be directly targeted by the government. like they weaponized against me, but I wasn't directly targeted. It was indirectly via the backdoor federal government telling tech companies who and what to go ahead and ban. So I have no claim. I looked it up. So they're looking out for everybody. There are now no more anti-weaponization fund for MAGA. By the way, Trump set you up on January 6th, MAGA. So maybe you want to chew on that and think about it for a minute. Deport criminal illegal aliens and save America. Here's PsyOps, aliens.gov coming out of the White House as they're preparing us for something, some more PsyOps about aliens. Yeah, we're not getting mass deportations. Allegedly, they did deport some illegal aliens that did crimes while they were here. We're not getting mass deportations, as we were promised by Trump. Somewhere down the line, we're going to get mass amnesty because there's too many of these illegal aliens in this country, and they're not going to carry out mass deportations. So look forward to that. Next betrayal that's coming. So there's big protests in New Jersey here now at ICE. If you riot, you will be arrested. Last night, our New Jersey law enforcement partners took action to arrest rioters. Lawlessness will not be tolerated. Here's a quick clip of that from the War Channel, Fox News. Anti-ICE rioters arrested outside New Jersey facility.
So that's just some of what we saw last night, and it's at least maybe 24 arrests and counting. Authorities used tear gas to clear the crowd, while DHS tells Fox there's zero tolerance for rioters here.
So that's a real good use of resources. Hakeem Jeffries pushes lies and smears against our heroic federal law enforcement, doing the bidding of illegal alien criminals and fanning the flames of political violence. This sicko should be ashamed of himself. That's a post by the White House. And they're talking about this. Violent Delaney Hall protests again grow chaotic. Crowds ignore Gov's plea for peace. Hakeem Jeffries put out this statement. The conditions of confinement we witnessed firsthand and discussed with approximately 24 detainees at Delaney Hall Detention Center shook the conscience. Immigration enforcement in this country should be fair, just, and humane. The Trump administration is doing the exact opposite. The White House posted this, law and order in New Jersey. And again, I always go back to arrest Mayorkas, arrest Catholic Charities, Aardvark Charities, I forget even their name. Everybody involved in the smuggling process, nobody's been in trouble. You got criminal, illegal aliens. They're already criminal, breaking our immigration law. And no one in any position of authority that allowed it and was part of the racket, human trafficking, has gotten in trouble for anything. So here's video out of the White House about these riots in New Jersey. So we're really doing this again. Fight the riot cops. Again, we reported this on Friday. The Capitol Police have, it's called the Capitol Police Intelligence Services Bureau. And that's another spy agency that all these people, unless it's just all, for all we know, they're all working together behind, at least at some level. Obviously not the people on the street getting punched and pepper sprayed and beat by the cops and the cops themselves. But at some level, they're working behind the scenes at upper levels to organize all this chaos for you and I. But yes, there is this very underreported, I guess it would be what, the 18th member of executive branch intelligence community, the Capitol Police Intelligence Services Bureau. Sounds like right out of a dystopic sci-fi movie, but it's a real thing. And so the ISB will be having their eye on you. On to, apparently Trump is not going to endorse Nancy Mace because she was making a bunch of noise about the Epstein. So no endorsement for you. And that's the trend from Trump, staying loyal to the Epstein crew, but not so loyal to his own party, MAGAs. What's up, bro? Well, the Epstein crew takes precedent over everything here now, essentially. And in large part, it looks like a major reason why we're on Iran War Day 94. Nancy Mace says, clean food, clean water, honest science. It's time to put the health of the American people ahead of corporate profits and hold government agencies accountable to the people they serve. And so that's extreme statement there for Nancy Mace running for governor of South Carolina. Says, make America healthy again. No Trump endorsement for you, Nancy Mace. Google planning to release millions of mosquitoes into California to help stop disease. See, they're helping. Here's a news report. I believe they're releasing them in Florida as well. And I don't know, why didn't they just give us 33? I guess we're 1 degree lower. And so there'll be 33, but they just did a 32 column. Here's the report out of Google helping us. Well, they're best known for search engines and now helping with the control the mosquito population.
Google is best known for search engines and smartphones, and you might wonder why the company is proposing to release millions of bioengineered mosquitoes in Florida. It is part of an effort to reduce the spread of dangerous diseases like West Nile virus. 10 Tampa Bay News reporter Eric Glasser explains the science behind this idea and why the tech giant is involved.
Well, it may sound unusual, but Google has filed an application with the EPA seeking approval to release up to 32 million specially treated mosquitoes in Florida and California over the next 2 years. The proposal is part of Google's Debug Initiative, a project launched more than a decade ago to find new ways to control mosquitoes, which spread diseases, making them the deadliest animal on the planet.
Mosquitoes are the #1 cause of death of humans. I mean, why not? We'll help the human race.
The mosquitoes would be bioengineered, infected intentionally with a naturally occurring bacteria called Wolbachia. Scientists say when the sterilized male mosquitoes then mate with wild females, the eggs don't hatch.
That can cause a dip in the population. And I'm sure that the places that are trying this now, that's what they're looking for.
And because only female mosquitoes bite people, experts say the release would not increase the number of biting mosquitoes. So what do folks think about this massive mosquito release?
I think it's interesting. I'm not sure about whether I want it in my backyard because there could be a lot of things that go wrong.
When you make a commitment like that, you really can't step back from it. If it's proven to work and it's going to keep them from breeding more, I guess it could work.
Google says it plans to use artificial intelligence and robotic systems to help breed and sort the mosquitoes on a scale large enough to make the strategy effective. Mosquito officials in the Florida Keys say they've already seen success using similar Wolbachia-treated mosquitoes there.
It was promising enough last season that we wanted to look at it some more, and so that's what we're doing this season.
The EPA is now reviewing Google's application with a public comment period open through June 5th before regulators decide whether to approve it. No word yet on where or when the mosquito release would occur.
Yeah, go give your public comment and get put on a terrorist watch list for being against weaponized mosquitoes. It's for our own good, you see. It's for our own good. More Mandelson files released in UK bring bad news for Stallmer, but many questions remain unanswered. Yeah, like how is freaking Stallmer not resigned yet after all this? But the Fabian Socialist is hanging in there in the UK. It's hanging tough. Peter Mandelson assured the British government it would never regret appointing him as UK ambassador to the United States, according to documents released earlier today. His pledge was dramatically proven wrong within months. More than 1,500 pages of files relating to the appointment of Mandelson, a friend of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, as envoy to Washington at the start of U.S. President Donald Trump's second term, were released by the government to comply with a demand by lawmakers. They shed new light on the continuous discussion and heap more embarrassment, or the continuous decision and heap more embarrassment on beleaguered Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Among the documents is a note from Mandelson to then Foreign Secretary David Lammy in November 2024, before his appointment, pledging that the government would never regret giving him the post. Well, hell, we should just trust Mandelson. He promised that they would never regret. That should be good enough, actually. Right? Even though he was trafficking like secret state secrets, essentially, to Epstein via his position as U.S. ambassador. Former Epstein banker Paul Morris leaves Bank of America's Merrill unit. And so sadly, even bankers are shamed, but no one in U.S. political office is shamed at all. Paul V. Morris, a private banker who worked with Jeffrey Epstein at J.P. Morgan Chase and Deutsche Bank, left as a wealth advisor at Bank of America, according to a media report released earlier today. Morris had managed Epstein's financial dealings at Deutsche Bank and J.P. Morgan, and while he didn't manage the convicted financier's financials at Bank of America, he continued to correspond with Epstein for years after he joined Bank of America's Merrill Lynch division in 2016. Bloomberg News reported last week on Monday, a company spokesperson confirmed to the news outlet that Morris had left the firm. So you're being mean to ambassadors, bankers. Pam Bondi testified to the House Oversight Committee on last Friday, as reported. Bondi refused to answer lawmakers' questions about Trump's involvement in Epstein files release. So, pretty clearly transparent there. Epstein victim accuses palace of protecting ex-Prince Andrew over leaked confidential information for years. You don't say. 6 years ago, the palace knew Andrew wasn't just a problem. He could face a criminal investigation, and they sat on it. Jess Michaels told the UK Telegraph, just like they covered up and were part of Jimmy Savile, molesting dead kids and sick kids and God knows what else. So it's about par for the course, standard operating procedure there for the palace. Buckingham Palace was reportedly given evidence in 2020 of Andrew sharing confidential government information while he was a trade envoy. The BBC reported that the Lord Chamberlain was given 30,000 emails with information about Andrew's sharing of the protected information. Alleged Epstein victim Jess Michaels told the UK Telegraph, this is what institutions do. They protect powerful men and leave the people they harmed to carry it. I would say that's a pretty accurate assessment there by Jess Michaels, Epstein victim. Nancy May says Epstein files cost her Donald Trump's endorsement. You don't say. You don't say. She's also saying, she's also campaigning on the death penalty for child molesters there for governor of South Carolina. Maybe that's what had Trump all up, his feathers all ruffled about this. Trump announces ambassador to Turkey, billionaire Tom Barak. Yes, the same Tom Barak from the Epstein files. Yeah. He said, when did he put this post out? Yesterday. Trump said, I'm pleased to announce that the United States ambassador to Turkey, Tom Barak, who has done an outstanding job, will be named special presidential envoy to Syria and likewise special presidential envoy to Iraq as we advance our strategic cooperation with the governments of Syria and Iraq. Our relationship with them continues to grow. Tom will remain ambassador to Turkey and operate with the full backing of the United States Department of State. We greatly appreciate the work that Tom Barak has done and his continued willingness to serve our country. Don't they have diplomatic immunity? Like he's above the law essentially, right? With his international travels. I believe so here now. And so, yeah, kids' heads in suitcase, who knows, whatever weird, freaky, satanic stuff they're into, you better believe this dude's on board with it, all up in the Epstein files. What are they saying now? We reported on this at the time, but now the DOJ is saying that on the day of the release, they put out Lutnick with Epstein photo. We've shown it here. And then they redacted it out of the Epstein files and then put it back in there. And so now they're trying to explain that as though the DOJ thought it was AI from their own files. And then after major public backlash about why are you guys deleting this photo of Howard Lutnick on Epstein Island, it was put back into the files. But hey, honest mistake, they thought it was AI, right? Sure. All right. Happy Pride Month. Everybody go to weaponizednews.com/shop. We have some holograph stickers over there. You can see all the colors of the rainbow there for you this June Pride Month. Weaponizednews.com/shop. If you're not into that, we have the straight white background right there on that sticker and the clear background as well. 3 different styles there you can see. Weaponizednews.com/shop. Go take a look at the store. We got t-shirts, coffee mugs, baseball caps, bunch of gear over there. Weaponizednews.com/shop. We take donations, Bitcoin wallet address, buy me a coffee, Cash App. Links are all in the description below this video. Become a paid subscriber of Weaponized News Substack. Over there, you get the whole show. You get a summary of the show, and you get links to almost everything we talk about for documentation and further research purposes. Become a paid subscriber. Weaponized News Substack helps support independent reporting and analysis brought to you 5 days a week, live, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern Time. Weaponized News Substack, weaponizednews.com/shop. All the links to everything are in the description below this video. All the channels that we're on, if by some twist of fate here now we get deleted again for our honest reporting here, then you'll probably find us on one of these channels. All the links to all our channels in the description below this video. All right. Thank you for bearing with me through that commercial message. Weaponizednews.com/shop. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. All that's free. Any which way you choose to support us is much appreciated. Thank you very much for the donations, the patrons of the store, the subscribers, and the paid subscribers, especially the paid subscribers. Thank you guys out there. Give us that like, share, subscribe. It does help with the algorithm to help us get seen more and get some more traction out there, as we're operating on a zero advertising budget here. Zero a la Dan Bongino. No, zero, like 0, 0, right? And so we depend on the audience to help share the information we're putting out and climb in the algorithms as they have it set up here now. All right. That's all the Epstein reporting we got for today. But yeah, again, a slap in the face to MAGA, a slap in your face to justice, to bringing more light to the Epstein network. Nancy Mace won't get a Trump endorsement because she's too loud about Epstein files. So Trump's now gone after Massey, Lauren Boebert, Mace, and who else? The Republicans. I think another one too. So you don't try to get justice for Epstein victims and the information to the American people about this satanic, eugenics, transhumanist, child trafficking, baby blood drinking, eating network. You just don't do it because that's running afoul of Trump and the Epstein network, and you will lose his support, as he's demonstrated now here with these congressmen and women. Oh, and MTG as well lost her MAGA card with Trump behind all of this. And anybody else that wants to step up and do the right thing, you will lose your MAGA card with Trump as well. He's made that abundantly clear. Okay, moving on now to the economy. This joker right here, this guy makes me sick to my stomach. He always has that Cheshire cat shit-eating grin on his face when he's lying to us about the economy. Kevin Hassett. Real incomes are soaring. Really? Bullshit, dude. Here he is lying on the War Channel, Fox News, about how great the economy is. It's just not true over here on Main Street for the very large majority of us.
The next thing is the incomes, real incomes, are soaring. If you look at real wage data, then the typical American family has gained about $3,000 since President Trump took office, after losing, after inflation, more than $3,000 under Joe Biden. And so we've got, smoothing through the ups and downs, even with the higher price of energy, real incomes on the rise. And for construction workers, for manufacturing workers, for mining workers, the numbers are really astonishing. For mining workers, they're really
go work in a mine so you can mine the critical minerals to build the AI data center. That's, yeah, this dude's too freaking much with his lies about the economy on the War Channel. Market Watch reports global oil prices jumped 7% to top $97 a barrel after Iran reportedly suspends talks with U.S. and fully closes the Strait of Hormuz. Day 94 of the Iran war. We've won it a bunch of times. They have no navy, but they have a bunch of boats in their navy patrolling the Strait of Hormuz. And Khomeini's still in charge of Iran, and the Strait of Hormuz is essentially closed. And now a global famine's baked in to all the rest of the chaos as per agenda and design. The stock market just did something eerily similar to the dot-com bubble top in 2000. Just 20 of the S&P 500 members joined the index at a record close on Friday. Bank of America points out just 20 stocks hit highs at the very top of the internet bubble in March of 2000. The firm's investment strategist, Michael Harnett, gave investors a post-bubble roadmap with market top nearing. And the Dow, was that a record? It's well above the famous Bondi 50K. That's why you shouldn't worry about Epstein Network and all their crimes, because look at the Dow. The Dow closed strong today, 51,084. NASDAQ way up. Let's see, gold hanging in there at like 4,500, silver hanging in there at $75, and Bitcoin way down to 71,000 for a little market roundup there for you in different key sectors. Anthropic files for IPO before OpenAI amid race to the public markets for trillion-dollar startups. They're talking about their valuation will be $1 trillion for Anthropic Claude AI maker. Trump is facing a new inflation warning from the bond market, adding to his midterm challenges. That's a report out of the Associated Press. The world is getting more uptight about lending money to President Trump's government, causing interest rates to climb in ways that are worsening affordability pressures. I don't like that. That's a new propaganda term, affordability. I don't like that. We saw him roll out, probably like 6 months ago, something like this. Affordability bullshit. It's called inflation. It's called debasement of our currency. They don't even see they don't want to even use the correct economic terms to further dumb us down here. But continuing this AP report, are worsening affordability pressures, hampering economic growth, and creating a new risk for Republicans in November's midterm elections. The energy price spike triggered by the Iran war has seeped into the price of bonds that help fund the U.S. government. Interest rates on a 10-year U.S. Treasury note are topping 4.44%, up from 3.95% before the war started. At the end of February, average mortgage rates have climbed to the highest levels in 9 months, while auto sales are slumping. The challenge is global in scale, as interest rates have risen for multiple countries, as the world has been adjusting to the prospect of higher inflation, mounting questions about the sustainability of government debt and a dramatic surge in investment in artificial intelligence. That's an AP telling you that. We told you that here a long time ago at Weaponized News. None of this is sustainable, and the government they don't care anymore. Okay, it's pedal to the metal. till this whole thing comes down when the bankers say, and they're like, spend as much as you possibly can and bomb as many people as you possibly can to the end here. Big report came out on Friday. Didn't see many people talking about it. Canada falls into recession for the first time since the bat times. Pretty concerning, I would say, right up on our northern border here. And so Canada has slipped into a technical recession for the first time since the bat times. And that's 2 negative quarters of GDP growth. Real GDP fell by 0.1% on an annualized basis in the first quarter of 2026, following a revised 1% decline in the fourth quarter of 2025. And so 2 consecutive quarters of negative annualized growth meet the most widely used definition of a technical recession. And so you'll cite this, they'll say, well, you're a damn terrorist. You know what I mean? It's just, we're at the point of the level of lying of these bastard government. And they've been in a freaking recession ever since the bat times. Give me a freaking break. And so have we here in America. And they lie about the economic data, but here it's so bad they can't even lie about it. So the data from the government, it's so bad they have to admit that, oh yeah, 2 negative quarters, 2 consecutive negative quarters of annualized GDP growth equals recession. And it's way worse than the official acknowledgement there now. U.S. construction spending on data centers eclipses $50 billion. Report out of Bloomberg. The Massachusetts Attorney General suing United Healthcare Insurance, saying it defrauded the state's Medicaid program of at least $100 million. Can you hear me, Luigi, out there? You know what I mean? Like, Senator Bernie Sanders has called for a law granting the federal government a 50% stake in each AI lab to create a public sovereign wealth fund. Florida's Attorney General filed a lawsuit against OpenAI and its chairman, Sam Altman, alleging that the AI startup's ChatGPT is unsafe. According to a report out of Politico, it contends that ChatGPT has provided assistance for mass shootings and poses addiction and suicide risks to users. Well, hell, funded another $50 billion. Google has announced it has raised $80 billion to build AI infrastructure. See, more funding for this is what the people need. In the United States, spending on data center construction now exceeds spending on public transportation infrastructure, including airports, marine terminals, and all mass transit, as it should be. ARVIX.org put out a study that estimates by the year 2030, data center pollution could cause an additional 600,000 more cases of asthma per year. Don't worry, health AI, they'll fix it up, give you a whatever, some kind of contraption to hook up to your lung. You'll be fine. The wearables. You'll be fine. Don't worry about breathing. We have data centers to build. And yeah, Anthropic, makers of Claude and Claude Code, I think it's French, right? We went over the dude. They named it after the French philosopher, mathematician dude. Anyway, Claude, they filed for IPO. So look out for that investment opportunity. AI revolution is 50 times bigger than the dot-com boom. SoftBank's son has said. That's a report out of Unusual Wales. 50 times bigger than dot-com boom? I don't know. Kirkland and Ellis, the world's highest grossing law firm, is setting aside $500 million to build its own AI platform. Report out of the Financial Times. Exxon is now warning that oil prices could go as high as $160 per barrel in the coming weeks as reserves are depleted. The company's senior vice president says we're approaching unheard of inventory levels. I mean, really, really low levels. And then what's the AAA price for a gallon of gasoline? It's actually gone down a cent from yesterday. Let's take a look at that. Well above the $4 mark. According to today's AAA national average for the price of a gallon of gasoline, it's $4.32 across America here now on average. And California is even down a little bit to $6.03. And you can see here yesterday was at $4.33. They should just leave it at that. Or how about $3.33 and just fix that price and leave it there? No? Come on, guys. Throw us a bone. But yeah, you can see it went down like about 1 cent here from yesterday. And per all indications, it's going to go right back up. Now on to, we should be happy about the burden of the Iran war, because Iran are bad. According to Brown University, the Watson School of International and Public Affairs, it's almost $400 per U.S. household now. The cost burden across both gasoline and diesel, it's up to $397.46 per U.S. household. Let's put that on the screen. You can see right here, it'll be at $400 tomorrow. And then the total consumer burden since the beginning of the Iran war on February 28, 2026, is now well above $52 billion. You can see right there on the ticker, 52.1 billion, and ticking as fast as interest on the national debt, dare I say, growing exponentially here now on day 94 of the Iran war. So here's Iran, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard put out a video of their Navy, which they don't have because it's at the bottom of the ocean, according to Trump. But here's a video they just put out of their Navy. And what do they call those? The fast boats. They released this footage showing fast attack boats patrolling the Strait of Hormuz, describing the activity as part of its ongoing routine operations. According to the IRGC Navy, the mission of these vessels is to guide ships transiting the strait and stop any vessel that ignores warnings. But I thought they didn't even have a Navy. Just more propaganda coming out of Iran, I'm sure. The IRGC said 15 vessels, including 4 oil tankers, passed through the Strait of Hormuz under Iranian coordination in the past 24 hours. The IRGC said that 15 vessels, including 4 oil tankers, transited the Strait of Hormuz over the past 24 hours in coordination with Iranian forces. The IRGC also warned that any vessel cooperating with what it described as hostile forces in the region would be considered a security threat and would be dealt with accordingly. Iran says its goal in managing traffic through the Strait of Hormuz is not to detain vessels, but to establish a procedure consistent with international law. These agreements are not temporary, and Iran will not back down. Deputy Foreign Minister said there in a statement. London bans Aardvarkland critics Hassan Piker and Chirk Uyghur from entering UK. UK bans a lot of people, actually. So, what the hell? Maybe they could ban some illegal aliens someday. But they banned these two characters, left-wing provocateurs out there. All our problems are Aardvarkland, right? But it's some of our problem. But yeah, these guys, they all seem like ops to me, honestly. But what do I know? More about the secret war. They're the snake biting their tail. So the narco terrorists are bad, right? We don't want them shipping in the drugs because that's what Johnson & Johnson and Purdue Pharma do, is they cook up the fentanyl here in America, or whatever, was it Oxycontin and all the other opioid derivatives. And so that's their market. And so God forbid any of these dirty narco terrorists bring their drugs in. We got our own drug dealers here. Buy your drugs from TrumpRx.gov. Just kidding. But more of this insanity, why we have to go in and have this secret shadow war, which is not really secret or shadow. If you just go to U.S. Southern Command X page, they tell you all about it. But this report about the Segunda Marcatilla drug cartel, it was set up by the United States, by the DEA. And so now we have to go get that cartel because they're the bad guys shipping on all the bad dope here. But we set up that cartel. What the hell? You know what I mean? They're bad narco trafficking drug terrorists. They're designated a terrorist organization based in Colombia along the Venezuelan border. But it turns out it was a creation of the United States federal government. Yeah, we reported on this, I believe, Friday, but it's just, wow. You know what I mean? So we have to go blow up the narco trafficking terrorists because the U.S. created them. And this continuing theme on loop. We create the terrorists wherever. Maybe they do the job we created them for, maybe not. And then, I don't know, 5, 10, 15, 20 years later, we got to go to war with that country to get these dirty terrorists that we created in the first place to fight the first terrorists. And it's this never-ending loop of the best enemy money can buy. And they're not even good enemies at this point. There's some little rinky-dink cartel as compared to the freaking U.S. military. But hey, we got to go kill a bunch of freaking Colombians now because of this cartel that the U.S. federal government created. What's going on in Russia? Report out of Bloomberg, Russia finance officials tell Putin war spending is unaffordable. And the Russian lives, many reports out there say a whole lot of Russians have been killed in the Ukraine proxy war against Russia. A lot. Maybe, I don't know. We can get, I haven't looked, honestly, but what are the official numbers? And we can't trust either side there. We can't trust the Russians, the Ukraine, whoever's giving us this data, but a whole lot on both sides have died now there in Russia-Ukraine war. Is it going to wind down? I don't know. Russia's still pissed off about this whack job they did. Grave atrocities done deliberately against children and teachers in Staroblast. Putin says, the evil man Putin said that. And so he's still all pissed off about this attack that Ukraine, NATO, America did on this school. And so he says, Putin said, Kiev regime wants to open new page in long list of their crimes, give new dimension to conflict in general. And so it's the same routine. Putin says Ukraine war crimes. Ukraine says Putin war crimes. They're all war crimes. Killing innocent civilians, men, women, and children. "21 students were brutally killed in that attack on the dormitory there in Russia. And then since Russia shot back Orishnik hypersonic missiles at Kiev, the head of the office of the president of Ukraine, Budanov, said Zelensky has instructed officials to end this war as quickly as possible, preferably before winter. Let's freaking hope so, man. There's on again, off again for how many years here now in the unprovoked invasion, YouTube, by Putin into Ukraine. Forget about all the background, the history that we know, that we've covered, but we're not allowed to talk about that here now. It was unprovoked invasion by Putin into Ukraine, right? Because that's the official story. But end it. Both sides are hinting, hunting. Well, talks, maybe. Let's end it. Let's end it. So maybe we'll get a peace deal here. Putin is talking about ending it as well. Could be pressure. Could be economic pressure funding this whole thing. Is the special operation. You know what they call it? Putin said the Kiev leadership has decided. Oh no, that's a. I had a new. Didn't I have a new one here? Thought I had another one. Well, Putin was talking about winding it down. So both sides over the last couple of weeks are talking about winding it down. But then the attack on the dorm happens. Then the Russians are all pissed off. They launched a hypersonic missile, and that's like escalating with talks of winding it down as well. Stop it, guys. Stop it. So let's pray for peace there. France bans aardvark land officials and weapons manufacturers from premier European arms fair. The French government has barred aardvark land government officials and national delegations from attending the upcoming Eurosatory defense expedition in Paris under the strict directives issued by French authorities. Aardvark land is prohibited from establishing its traditional national pavilion at the premier European arms fair. Furthermore, Paris has banned aardvark land weapons manufacturers from showcasing any offensive combat hardware, restricting the remaining corporate attendees exclusively to the display of defensive anti-war systems during the event later this month. The Aardvark Land Defense Ministry lashed out at the restrictions earlier today, labeling the move a shameful decision that unfairly penalizes its state-backed defense sector. There's an ongoing genocide against two different peoples, right? I don't know, man. Don't be antiseptic there, France. So France needs to be sanctioned, droned immediately, obviously, for not allowing Aardvarkland to do a genocide parade through their arms fair there in Europe. And then just disgusting levels of propaganda being pushed on the internet by the Department of War here. They're still pushing this Q bullshit. Like, bro, it's played out. There is no the plan. We know the real plan, and it didn't get the bad guys in the government, because you are the bad guy in the government, Trump. Trust the plan. The Department of War says locked in there. And then they highlighted the blue here. That's very racist, right? So yeah, there you go. Q propaganda. I don't know how anybody's still following this bullshit, but just a refresher, no one of any significance in the government has gotten in trouble for anything for legion crimes against humanity they've now committed against us. And you could start that clock when Trump went down the golden escalator, or hey, what the hell, when he first took office his first term. So again, trust the plan, bro. It's like idiot level. We do deserve, for this giant $1.5 trillion war budget that the Pentagon's getting ready to get, we deserve way better propaganda than this stupid bullshit. Oh, well, here's some of that great propaganda from the Secretary of War, signing missiles again. There's something wrong about this, and it feels like it's creating a bunch of bad karma, bad juju on us, bro. So stop it. But a bunch of them do this. They sign these missiles that are going to kill people. This, our homeland and hemisphere, will defend. Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. There you go. Signing another missile, and then but signaling the Greater North America Project, which will be our region of one world government. U.S. Southern Command did another whack job here. They say on May 30th, so what was that, Saturday? On May 30th, at the direction of U.S. Southern Commander Donovan, Joint Task Force Southern Sphere conducted a lethal kinetic strike on a vessel operated by designated terrorist organizations. Intelligence confirmed that the vessel was transiting along known narco trafficking routes in the Eastern Pacific. 3 male narco terrorists were killed during this action. No U.S. military was harmed. Here's the alleged, well, this is what they say. They're making the claim, so we're sticking to the official story. These are extrajudicial killings, which equal murder with no due process or rule of law here in America to build this is part of building the greater North America. I don't know. The videos from U.S. Southern Command looks like a freaking video game to me. Is any of that even real? Who knows? Could be real. They're making the claim they whacked 3 dudes, so we'll take them at their word there. Another example of Southcom commitment in its partnership with Colombia, Costa Rica, and Panama to disrupt cartels and narco terrorists. And they don't whack everybody. There are some reports they are doing a couple cocaine busts here and there where they didn't just whack everybody, which is how you're supposed to do it. But you got to have some evidence instead of just making bold claims that you're a narco terrorist and deserve to die via drone. But there you can see continually running operations in Mexico, Central and South America here now as part of building out the greater North America. This dude, this pisses me off right here. This dude, Trump's former digital campaign manager, Brad Parscale. He's corrupted America to the point of working for foreign governments. New disclosures reveal a web of right-wing businesses being paid by Aardvark land through Brad Parscale. Let's report out of The Intercept. This bastard right here, straight up traitor to this country. So Aardvark land paid Brad Parscale's team $9 million to work on a project aimed at getting AI systems to portray Aardvark land in a more favorable light. Hell, you could pay me nothing, and I keep telling you guys what they're telling you. Stop posting your war crimes on the internet, bro. That could go a long way in portraying you in a more favorable light. The IDF's warned you. A bunch of Aardvark government has warned you. Netanyahu leading the charge posts his war crimes along with a bunch of the IDF soldiers. That evidence of war crimes was cited in the ICC indictments against them. I gave you all that intel for free, Aardvarks, for free. But you're getting conned by Brad Parscale here to the tune of $9 million. I'm sure a lot more than that. But what a traitor this bastard Parscale is. And they're running the Salem Media Network as well here in America. And they don't disclose. I think some of them are. I think maybe he has to disclose for FORA. Yeah, he does have to. Let's see. Yeah, former Trump campaign manager Brad Parscale, hired by the Aardvark government to push pro-Aardvark views on a major conservative media network, Salem Media, has directed $13 million from Aardvark land to several Republican digital strategy firms and allies, according to a previously unreported document filed under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. At least he registers. AIPAC's just like, you're antiseptic. Go fund some more corruption in American politics. Don't be antiseptic. Oh, we know. We know you bastards. Well, they're over there doing a bunch of prayers to their evil gods. Korean woman at the Knesset in Aardvark land. Father, forgive the nation of Korea who has spoken the word against Aardvark land. So they're having like struggle sessions over there saying, I'm sorry that we were not nice enough to Aardvarks. Please forgive us. Don't sanction and drone me, bro.
Father, forgive the nation of Korea who's spoken the word against Israel.
Wow. There was more of them. Dozens of international Christian delegates gathered at the Aardvark land Knesset May 27th for the 10th annual Jerusalem prayer breakfast and groveling to evil, essentially. I added that part. An event aimed at bolstering so-called Aardvark Christian solidarity and in support of U.S. Aardvark land attacks on Iran, Lebanon, and Gaza. The gathering served as a platform for foreign religious figures to reaffirm their political allegiance to Aardvark land. That was a report from the Cradle. These are just disgusting people, man. Not my God. Oh, but it gets better. Here's John Hagee. John Hagee, Christian Zionist, told sellout, I wouldn't want to be him on Judgment Day. He says that he claims Americans who express anti-aardvark views are bewitched with witchcraft and Satanism. And that's exactly what, see, they did the satanic inversion of reality. That's exactly who they are, is dark occultist Satanists.
America is bewitched with Satanism and witchcraft. There's a revival of witchcraft sweeping this nation right now. We are a nation of drive-by shooting, sex trafficking, child abuse, anti-Semitism, and Jew hatred flows in this country, especially out of our...
All those horrible crimes, he throws in antiseptic. F you, dude.
Universities. It's time for this nation, as a Bible-believing Christian nation, stands up and supports the Jewish people and shuts down every form of anti-Semitism.
So that is your dark occultist Satanist right there, posing as a Christian pastor, John Hagee. This nutball, former Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann, claims that Trump and Netanyahu were divinely appointed for this war, that abandoning it would be a tragic mistake for historical purposes, and that God will reward the GOP with midterm victories if the killing continues. Let's play this clip posted by Hotspot on the X. These people are possessed by evil, man.
I'm really concerned, though, too, that there will be distractions, because there is a very important issue in front of us. We've never had a clearer path to defeat Iran. And so I'm worried that the midterms concerns and also elections concerns in Israel, that both leaders will be distracted. I think that would be a tragic mistake for historical purposes. I think we need to stay on task right now, because I truly believe that if President Trump takes care of this evil now, I think God will deliver the midterms as well. I think that will happen. I think the same for the elections in Israel. I believe these men were appointed for this task, destined for this task. They're the only two leaders I can think of who would work together to defeat Iran. Can you think of any other political leader that would do this? And especially Israel and America. This is historic. This is a biblical moment, and that's why we need to pray into this for the strength for both men not to be distracted, to stay on task and get the job done. I believe it will happen, and I believe that God will take care of all the other considerations that might be distracting.
Another consideration sitting on top of all this, is the secret societies that none of these jokers will ever talk about. The Freemasons are sitting on top of all this. Christian rights activist here. He says the Bible must not be weaponized against Palestinians. Let's watch this clip out of the Clash report.
Faith cannot be neutral in the face of systematic injustice, and Christian theology must never be used to justify domination, exclusion, or the denial of another's people's rights. So people of faith, this is the message, people of faith have to strongly challenge interpretation of scriptures used politically to legitimize oppression or supremacy, and insist that the Bible must be read through the lens of the vulnerable, with focus on justice, mercy, equality, and the dignity of every human being created in the image of God. The Bible should not be weaponized against a nation, against the Palestinians.
Well, that's what these bastard Christian Zionists have done. They've weaponized the Bible. Good job, you evil bastards. He went on to say, there's more from that. Watching fellow Christians support policies that harm Palestinian Christians. By the way, there's Palestinian Christians. I know they're all evil terrorists, but hey, there are Palestinian Christians out there. They're trying to whack them all. Christian Zionism places aardvark land not as a political reality, but as a theological necessity beyond moral accountability. This guy said, with more from that interview from the Clash report. That's a right on point. The patriarchs and heads of churches in Jerusalem have warned Christian presence is under threat. The global church should be alarmed. In 5 years, Christians in Gaza may be gone. Same in the West Bank. How can Christians support a system that makes the continued existence of Christianity in the land of Christ impossible? Well, don't be an anti-Semitic. That's your answer. More from that interview. The settlements, the ultra-Zionist settlements, per BBC description of these lunatics, psychopaths running around there. The settlements are strangling Christians in Bethlehem, the birthplace of Jesus. A new settlement is being built next to Bet Sahur, adding to 25 settlements already surrounding Bethlehem. If built, and it will be built, it will push out half the population. Over 50 iron gates and 80 roadblocks disconnect Bethlehem from its villages. Indigenous Christians are disappearing from the birthplace of Christianity. Spitting on clergy and Christian symbols happens daily in Jerusalem. According to the racist minister Ben Gavir, spitting is part of aardvark tradition. Settlers are not a separate lunatic fringe. They are part of the aardvark land establishment, supported and protected by the state of aardvark land. This is the father-in-law of the new Federal Reserve Chair, Kevin Warsh, saying that aardvark land government should form a new agency with $1 billion budget financed in part by aardvarks in the diaspora who will work together with Mossad and Shin Bet to fight aardvark land enemies in the propaganda war. Let's watch this clip from these psychopaths. And we're just supposed to say, yeah, it's awesome. Glad this guy's son-in-law is the new chairman of the Federal Reserve.
Facing rockets of disinformation every minute of every day. There is no less a campaign to destroy the country. And it's coming from TikTok. It's coming from mainstream media, from the BBC, from CNN. It's coming from each posting, each headline, each fake photo of a starving child in Gaza. And these lies are no less dangerous than the rockets heading towards Jewish homes. And they are constant. Israel must create a new Iron Dome to not just fight this never-ending cascade of lies, but also must go on the offensive. There should be a completely new and vitally important government operation with a new director, not just a political appointee, but someone who knows PR and news backwards and forwards.
Again, bro, it's your own people posting their war crimes that got everybody all pissed off at you. But they never admit fault. And then it's another check mark against them. The arrogance of these people. Hey, the Houthis there in Yemen, their fingers on the trigger. They haven't done much lately. Ansarallah reportedly signaling readiness to join the war against Aardvark land, vows Hezbollah will not stand alone. According to sources close to Yemen's Ansarallah movement, cited by Mir News Agency, politically, militarily, and operational coordination between Ansarallah, the Lebanese resistance, and the Axis resistance groups has never stopped. So they're like, remember the Houthis who we bombed the hell out of and couldn't do jack to? Remember them? Yeah, they're still there with their finger on the trigger and keeping their powder dry, just waiting for the call to start launching more attacks. And good luck. You're having fun with the Strait of Hormuz transiting there. Good luck with the Red Sea, as we reported. It's been probably a year now. I forget even how long. It's been a while, but the Houthis had that locked down as well as a response to Gaza genocide and backing up the axis of resistance groups. And so they're still there with a bunch of friggin' firepower. So this whole thing's just waiting to kick off hot and heavy again. Aardvark land Prime Minister Bibi and Defense Minister Katz ordered the Aardvark land military to strike targets in Beirut's Dayhaya district yesterday. Netanyahu offered repeated ceasefire violations as a pretext for Aardvark land escalation. Despite the nearly daily strikes Aardvark land has carried out in Lebanon since the ceasefire went into effect in mid-April. And we continue to report on these ceasefire violations, but there is no ceasefire. It's ceasefire in name only. 6 killed, 23 injured in Aardvark land airstrike on hospital in Tyre, southern Lebanon, according to preliminary reports. And so they're still stacking the bodies there. That was yesterday. And again, as we continue to report, a systematic targeting and decommissioning and deconstruction and demolition of Lebanon's public health. They're targeting paramedics, nurses, doctors, ambulances, hospitals, anybody with a Band-Aid. You're a terrorist. At least 21 people were killed and 126 wounded in Aardvark land strikes across southern Lebanon yesterday. And earlier today, a further 12 Lebanese were killed in a series of strikes. Since March 2nd, at least 3,433 people have been killed, Lebanese killed, and 10,395 wounded since March 2nd in Aardvark land attacks on Lebanon, according to the Lebanese Health Ministry. There's video of them bombing the hospital. Yeah, they leveled the joint. Here's some of that video. like, nice hospital you got there, bro. Not so much anymore. Devastating scenes from this. Is this the same? I think this is the same, but a different angle here. You could see the level of destruction on this Lebanese hospital. There's more. There's more from that attack. That was a big one. I think you got the gist of it. They leveled the place, and we went over the dead and injured. And it's happening on both sides. Just stop. They can't stop. They refuse to stop. They're driven and compelled by bloodlust. They're possessed by evil spirits. I don't know how else you can describe this. They have evil in their heart for death and destruction, and they're whacked out fulfillment of their fake prophecies. And Aardvarkland staff sergeant was killed by a drone. And so what did they say? They've been all last week. They were saying one drone killing 10 buildings come down. It was what? Smotrick, Gavir. I think even Kat said it. I don't know if Kat said it, but I know Smotrick and Ben Gavir said it. But this Aardvark dead. All sides suffering casualties. Stop it. They won't. They won't now, will they? Hezbollah is not stopping. Hezbollah announced 4 operations earlier today in progress. They're shooting on Lebanese land at the Aardvark land occupation forces. That's what these Hezbollah missions consist of, defending their own land. U.S.-led ceasefire mechanism traps elderly Lebanese man under rubble for days as Aardvark land blocks rescuers. A 70-year-old Lebanese man remains trapped beneath rubble in his home in southern Lebanon after days of bureaucratic delays from U.S.-led and so-called ceasefire monitoring mechanisms spark intense domestic fury over restrictions on life-saving rescue operations. This dude is trapped underneath the rubble, and they won't. Hamid Tawabi has been buried underneath rubble since Thursday morning, following a wave of intense airstrikes, despite frantic appeals from his family to the Lebanese army and international organizations. Rescue teams have been forbidden from reaching the site under the terms of the current truce, which Aardvark land has never abided by. Emergency responders cannot enter areas targeted by Aardvark land without explicit clearance from the U.S.-chaired committee responsible for monitoring the ceasefire. So dude will probably die there in the rubble if he's not dead already because of bureaucratic red tape. No, they know exactly what they're doing and using that as an excuse to increase the body count. Obviously, there's this Aardvark land took this castle over the weekend. They took this historic Belfort Al Shakif castle. They took this castle, and then Hezbollah got all pissed off about that, shot a drone at them. So, reading this report out of the cradle, they say at sunset on Saturday, May 30th, an Aardvark land infantry group infiltrated under a heavy smoke screen from the east side of the Beaufort Castle via unmonitored pass. They reached the castle and took a set of photographs, of which the enemy rushed to distribute Sunday morning, claiming it had occupied the castle, noting that the castle was completely empty of any military presence or resistance. From dawn yesterday morning there in southern Lebanon until the time of issuing the statement, the enemy has been finding great difficulty in establishing its forces in the vicinity of the castle, where these forces are currently positioned near the rest area below the castle. Hezbollah is engaging in a war of attrition against the Aardvark land enemy army forces present in the area. And Hezbollah put out a video of their drone going after them for trying to, and I guess they're still fighting over it, this castle right here, seizing and occupying that castle there. We do have the video of it. Yeah, we won't show it. Hezbollah releases footage of drone attack targeting Aardvark land forces at the castle. The operation was carried out yesterday as Netanyahu was hailing its capture. Bibi went on Aardvark TV and said how wonderful capturing this. And again, they admitted there was nothing even there. No terrorists there, but hey. Where's my bomb shelter, bro? As much money as these bastards in the U.S. government spend, every American should be afforded a bomb shelter. 10 new fortified bomb shelters are delivered there in Lebanon. Even the Lebanese government, puppets of America, they're giving their people bomb shelters. What do we get? Jack squat here. Trump gets a $1 billion bunker under the White House. Now they're talking about it's going to be a drone launching pad, fully militarized. What do we get? Jack. We get to not eat and buy Ozempic from TrumpRx.gov is what we get. Here's the bomb shelters there in Lebanon being set up. We're probably paying for that. I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me if somehow, some way, America's paying for it. We seem to be on all sides of everything. All sides of everything and solving nothing, all by design. Aardvark land backed Palestinian militias to set fire to residential areas. They're in Jabalia camp in northern Gaza. So there are Aardvark land backed militias also in Gaza and all over the place there too, right? Doing their part for the Palestinians, trying to burn them out in Gaza. Aardvark land airstrike on a bicyclist killed a Palestinian man. This guy in central Gaza for the crime of riding a bicycle. We'll probably be there in America before you know it. And so they whacked this guy, Yosef Ramadan. Over the past 24 hours, 2 Palestinians were killed and 40 were injured across Gaza. So a report out of Drop Site News, the total recorded death toll since October 7th, 2023, when Bibi gave the stand down order, put out a bunch of AI fake videos, and they carried out the Hannibal doctrine, that terrorist attack against aardvarks. Since then, and these are official numbers, it's way worse than this, right? But official numbers of dead Palestinians since October 7th, 2023 is now 72,941, with 172,967 injured. And it's way worse than that, right? That's just the official numbers. What was the Lancet? Remember the Lancet like a year ago estimated like, what, 180,000, something like this. I forget the exact numbers, but well above these numbers. And it's way worse than even that. Because they did the, and you guys know in the chat, I always forget the name of the bomb, where it just, it disintegrates everything, right? Vaporizes everything. And there's literally no remains, no evidence, nothing. And they're dropping a bunch of those bombs. So how many people did they wipe out with those? How many people are still stuck underneath the rubble? And so there's a bunch of bodies still that we'll probably never even know, that have literally been erased from history here now with these weapons they're using. So, but the official death toll since October 7th, 2023, there against the Palestinians in Gaza, 72,941 killed, 172,967 injured. And since the October 11th ceasefire, there's been 932 Palestinians in Gaza killed and 2,859 wounded, while 781 bodies have been recovered from the rubble. And they're blocking they won't even let them have backhoes, or probably a shovel for that matter, to even try to dig bodies out of the rubble of the apocalyptic hellscape that the seemingly never-ending carpet bombing campaign has created. And then one of our favorite cartoon villains here. Right out, he's like a Bond villain kind of dude, but a real life dude. Smotrick, right? Smotrick says the state of Aardvark land is the home of the entire Aardvark people. The security of the Aardvarks here also relies on the strength and security of the state of Aardvark land, but unequivocally there is no better place to live. I would remind you that we also are now giving 5 years of full tax exemption to new immigrants who come to Aardvark land this year. And so isn't that nice? Go be an ultra-Zionist fringe lunatic and terrorize, harass, poison the well, rape, murder in some cases, the Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. And you will be rewarded there by the Aardvark land state with 5 full years of tax exemption. So they're providing economic incentive to ultra-Zionist settlers to carry out the tyranny. And probably some way backed up by America. Well, it is backed up by America, right? Smotrick went on to say, it's either us or them. There is no middle ground. We are killing the idea of a Palestinian state. They are, right? They're whacking as many, genociding them, and then taking all the land. And so once they complete the greater Aardvark land project, there will be no more land to claim there and probably no more Palestinians. So there you go. They're doing more than killing the idea of a Palestinian state. They're literally killing the people and stealing their land to ensure that no such idea can ever bloom. Smotrich went on to say the Palestinian Authority needs to be dismantled. The lines of areas A, B, and C need to be erased. The Oslo Accords, this terrible disaster, need to be erased. We need to take control of the entire territory, which they're systematically going about doing. More from Smotrich. Here, I know you guys missed his handsome mug there. This dude, right? Smotrich, finance minister. He's not shy about their war crimes. He went on to say, in this clip from the Clash report, Europeans have to be on our side in this war against Iran because it's the good guys versus the bad guys. I'm glad that he painted such a clear picture. You got a guy in a white hat and a guy in a black hat. And so, of course, we want to be with the good guys in the white hat. Glad he clarified that for us. Finance Minister Smotrich doing his civic duty. Here he is in New York over the weekend. So where's the call me Muslim Mamdani that's not arresting Smotrich? Here he is in New York going about his end times ways.
Yisrael Chai. The people Israel live.
But Trump told me that Chuck Schumer's a Palestinian. And then final report here for the day. Australian Samud flotilla activists file ICC war crimes case against Aardvark Land over torture, sexual violence. I don't know. They're white people. Maybe something had happened. Probably not. But Australian activists who took part in the flotilla for Gaza filed a formal submission with the International Criminal Court on Saturday, accusing Aardvark Land of war crimes based on documented evidence of torture and sexual violence sustained during their abduction and imprisonment. The legal filing submitted by 11 Australian survivors of the flotilla and their legal team is supported by dozens of survivor testimonies, video evidence, medical records, and sworn statements. Well, all that just antiseptic, right? Sure. This evidence details severe beatings and sexual abuse following the May 18th interception of the international aid mission carrying food and medicine and the evil baby formula to the besieged Gaza Strip in an attempt to break the Aardvark Land blockade on the enclave. This is scary. One specific account included in the submission describes an Australian humanitarian worker being forcibly injected with an unidentified substance by Aardvark Land captors. What the hell do they inject this guy with? That video footage of it. Yeah, we showed you the dude shot the dude with rubber bullets. I guess he's lucky they didn't shoot him with lead bullets, but Showed you that, dude. A bunch of these. We showed you a bunch of these videos. Australian filmmaker Juliette Lamont, in an interview with Double Down News, recounted being dragged into a shipping container she called a torture tunnel, where she was placed in a stressed position, hands restrained behind her back and ankles shackled in the dark, before being vaginally raped by one of the male soldiers, while other people had guns inserted inside of them. She added that a 70-year-old woman's ribs were broken as howls of torture and pain would emit from the same chambers she had been tortured in. Let's see. Let's take a look at the headlines. Have they kicked it off really hot yet? Iran International latest headlines. Trump says Iran talks continue as IRGC claims ship attack in Persian Gulf. We covered all that. Lebanon becomes a test of Trump's Iran diplomacy. I don't know what Trump put out a post, said stop it, aardvarks. All the big aardvarks said basically F you, Trump, we do what we want. That's where we're at with this. And again, Axios. I'm telling you, Axios is straight up aardvark propaganda, state propaganda. They work both sides, I guess. America, straight up state propaganda. Axios, acting like some kind of independent news agency. They're not. Again, they say Trump erupted at Netanyahu over Lebanon escalation. Bullshit. Every 2 weeks they come out, or even less than that, right? But we'll stay with the 2-week theme. Every 2 weeks, there's a big falling out between Trump and Netanyahu. We're going to see the end of this. Bullshit. Okay? They're freaking like this. So just save it, Axios. You know what I mean? But not much since all we've covered here. Breaking that I can see of major significance as far as escalating the war to like full-on bombing campaigns by America against Iran. Trump talks to Hezbollah. We covered that as post. U.S. Senator Schumer, the Palestinian, says we will not stop fighting to end this war once and for all. New Zealand bans 3 extremist aardvark land settlers. Turns out you can't just run around, harassing, terrorizing people all over the world just by screaming, I'm an aardvark all day. You know what I mean? Turns out some people, they're just not going to have that. I know it's wrong, according to Hagee and the rest of their satanic crew, but some people are just not going to put up with it. All right, friends, that's all of the reporting we got for today, as I'm going to try to get to the Odysee channel and check out some comments over there. How you guys liking? I don't know. Still kind of has hiccups about Odysee. Still kind of, I don't know. I like it, don't get me wrong, but still has a lot of issues. Let's just say, because they did a whole new big upgrade over there, and on my end, it's got a lot of bugs. Shout out to Fat Bob, Pink, Huffman, John. Thank you guys for joining us on the Odysee. deep over there. See if I can get any. Can I say any comments from Fat Bob? Let's see here. Fat Bob says, no way, Sam. A war against Iran is a long time coming. I'm Jim Rickards and Charles Ortell. Well, hell, Condoleezza Rice and a bunch of these other clowns have told us that we've been at war with Iran for 47 years. Hell, take it back to 54 or 53, right? We've been at war with Iran since 1953. Hell, take it back to World War II. We've been at war with Iran since World War II. Where have you been? John says, Trump consistently sends aardvarks to Muslim countries as diplomats, even if they are real estate developers and not actual diplomats. It's running a major racket, right? With everybody in his crew. Fat Bob says, zero a la Charles Munger on Bitcoin. I remember that. Fat Bob has a pretty good memory. Let's see here. Larry Johnson has said Iran is ready to demonstrate a nuclear weapon. Yeah, Larry Johnson. I don't trust any of these big talking heads dudes, honestly. Sometimes they have correct intel, and sometimes they don't, as we've seen, right? As we've seen throughout this Iran war. Do it already. You know what I mean? I don't think any of this is real. I think aardvarks would have used nukes already. Hell, I think we would have used nukes already if it was everything it's sold to us as, and I don't believe it is. Yeah, God save the poor inmates there in aardvark prisons. I hear you deep. It's hellish. They're going to get to a point you'd rather be dead than be tortured. And a lot of it too is they're doing ritual. They're doing dark occultist, Talmudic blood rituals. People should also keep that in mind as to the why are they doing this. A lot of it is ritualistic to serve their evil gods. They're saying, oh my gosh, thermobaric balm. There you go. I don't know why I can't remember that. Thermobaric balm. John said, yeah. The one that literally, it just obliterates everything, right? There's nothing left. Disintegrates everything. Like what a nuke is sold to us as being able to do. Maybe there's thermobaric bombs. John adds a good point. They're trying, aardvarks hope to eliminate our genetic lines too. Yeah. They live a good life funded by taxpayers over here in America. And we're subsidizing the ethnic cleansing and genocide of Christians in Gaza, the occupied West Bank, and occupied Jerusalem. So think about that. American Christians over here are subsidizing that behavior against fellow Christians. Huffman says Axios correspondence 80 unit 8200. I hear you. Indeed, they are. All right. Thank you guys for chatting it up with some insightful comments on the Odysee. I wish we could get that good of an audience on the rest of these platforms, but I do appreciate you guys on the Odysee. Very insightful comments there. What is and John said, I suspect the girls' school was intended as a sacrifice to Moloch. Indeed, I believe so as well, John. That's how they roll. That's how they roll. All right, thank you guys for tuning in on Odysee, X, Kick, Bitchute, Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube. I got to get off this line. I got to make a call right now. I can't get to all your comments. I got to make a call right now, guys. But thank you for chatting it up on the Rumble and the YouTube. I appreciate it. And if you were trolling me, I didn't even pay attention. So better luck next time. That's all the reporting we got. Let's pray for peace. As always, everybody do your own research, peace, love, and freedom. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Monday evening, and we'll be back here on Tuesday for more weaponized news. Let's pray for peace.